Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Dr. Lopkin, not a good week for Amtrak Joe, correct?
No, not at all.
I think the train has gone off the rail.
Right.
There you go for Amtrak Joe.
Yeah, it's starting to look like Amtrak Joe's train is going the way of the train in East Palestine, which he still hasn't visited.
But flew over on his way to the UAW strike,
Right.
which he screwed up again by saying this is the first time as president that he crossed a picket line. Unbelievable. But anyway, yes, so not going well. There was a poll, crazy poll, but ABC, Washington Post, Trump up by 10, and there's other subsequent polls like the other day. He's up by 2. He was down. It's the trend, stupid, isn't it? It's
Well,
not good.
no, it's definitely not good for Biden. We immediately, when the poll came out, the Washington Post themselves tried to paint this as an outlier. But if you'll recall, the last Washington Post ABC poll had Trump up by 7. And they were going, oh, no, this can't be right. It's an outlier. It's a
It's right. Do you know what? I
apparently
have to just
the
interject one
trend
thing.
is. Go ahead.
Yes, the trend is we have to sometimes give ourselves, it doesn't happen often, some accolades that we were talking about this for a couple of months now. When your house is on fire, do you really give a shit that the fireman's an asshole? And I think this poll is reflective of that. Your comments, Dr. Lopkin.
That is what it's reflective of. People are looking back. I've heard it over and over again from different conservative pundits. They keep asking the question that came from Reagan's campaign. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And quite frankly, you cannot honestly say yes. The New York Times came out and said the progressive policies that they themselves have been championing have turned out to be disastrous.
I've never in my entire life have seen anything like this. And even polls, Jimmy Carter's polls were better than this. Biden's approval now is 37% approve, 50 cent, 50 cent, 56% disapprove. And speaking of
Are you
50 Cent, how when he called LL Cool J, he
L
screwed up the
L
name and
L
said, "Hey
LLJ,
boy."
yes, LLJ Cool J, and he, yeah, it boggles my mind that he is not smart enough not to call an African American man boy.
Okay, and the other thing that's really funny, I'm not exactly a rap aficionado. I don't know anyone on this planet that's like breathing or maybe not on life. So LL Cool J, like he's been doing this for like 40 years.
Right,
Really?
like there's anybody that doesn't know his name. Yeah.
How about like Paul McCartney? There you go. Jesus, it's and the boy thing. If that was Trump, are you out of your mind? But I did see some podcasts that with some young African American hosts and participants saying essentially this guy's full of shit. Like it does resonate, and that's why he's lost 17% support among Black Americans. It's
Well,
not surprising.
it's not surprising. And after that gaffe with LL Cool J, Charlemagne the God did go off on his podcast about Biden. And remember, it was Charlemagne the God's podcast that Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So yeah,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
he's losing the African American vote with quite frankly, all of these gaffes. He's losing the Hispanic vote primarily because what's going on at the border. He has key constituencies that he cannot afford to lose, and he's losing them. And one of those constituencies happens to be the unions. The union members are not, specifically the auto workers union, are not happy with him because he's been pushing his electric vehicle vision. Electric vehicles have far fewer moving parts and require fewer people to assemble them. So the same way with, where he canceled pipelines and canceled oil leases, and he said, "Oh, these people will get green jobs." He's saying the same thing with the auto workers, and it just isn't so.
Well, it's also worse than that because the person, Joe, lunch pail, Amtrak, blue collar, union Joe, never really had a job in his entire life. We all know that, correct? No surprise there. He also, because of his green, insane, nutcase efforts and initiatives, which he probably had nothing to do with. But anyway, Ford, among we'll just take Ford for an example, loses like I like I won't even say it because I can't believe it's true in the thousands of dollars on each electric vehicle. So what does that translate into? Yes, you're correct. Fewer parts, got it. Fewer workers needed. But when you're losing money, you may require fewer workers as well. So lunch pail
Well,
Joe's hardly the friend of the UAW. There you
no,
go.
well, you just brought up Ford. Ford just halted work on a $3.5 billion battery plant for EVs.
No one's
So,
buying
all
them.
right, all of these jobs that were promised with this green economy, they're not materializing. And those that are
Are going
materializing
under.
in China.
Yeah, or going under. Yeah, it's all about never all his little 25-year-old Ivy League socialists in his White House, and I still think a lot of them are Obama transfers. But anyway, they've never worked a day in their life. They know nothing about the free market, and if government got the hell out of the way, there'd probably be a smoother and less resistance to EV vehicles because the market would take over. Look at Tesla. A lot of Teslas are on the road. But when you try to force feed something, it's never going to work. Surprise, surprise, Gomer Pyle.
Exactly. Let the marketplace deal with this.
But if
The
you've
the
never been
simple
in a market, you don't know that.
yeah, that's the big problem is we've got a whole bunch of people trying to manipulate our economy that don't know how an economy works.
Yes, and as we all reiterate, it's not been a good week for Amtrak Joe. In fact, he's losing support, and these two stories do dovetail each other and support each other among blue Democrats, blue state, and also liberal Democrats because of his out of control border policy, which is coming home to roost. And in fact, RFK, his challenge, at least his current challenger, has been slamming his border policy because that's another thing about the UAW and Union Joe. When you flood the market with low skilled, uh, low cost labor, what do you think happens? I don't know. You might have to go take another MBA class at Harvard or UPenn in his case, where he was
Yeah,
a
the
professor,
yeah, the border has gotten out of control to the
beyond out of
point
control.
that this week Kathy Hochul called in the National Guard to help deal with the migrant crisis in New York City. And New York's migrant numbers are approximately 10% of what Texas and Arizona are dealing with.
Yeah, but I thought they were welcome everyone. They're a sanctuary
They
state.
were
What do you
until
mean they were
until they
disingenuous?
until they saw what the results of this was.
Does it get
It's
back to our whole thing about do as I say, not as I when they never thought it would reach New York? Come on, you should be open minded. As soon as it comes their way, what? What? Am I
you
not
know
correct?
I think more than do as I say, not as I do. This is a reflection of the old statement: in theory, theory and practice are the same. In practice, they aren't. The liberals have
100%.
have all of these great theories, but when the rubber hits the road, they tend to crash.
Yes, like theories like forcing EV vehicles on
Yes.
everyone, and the list goes on. Yes, not a like I said, not a great day for Lunch Pail
Yeah.
and Amtrak Joe. He also has some more problems, doesn't he? You look at Comer. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. That's not a good week for Lunch Pail Joe and his son Hunter
No, it
either, is it?
wasn't. The
No, no, no.
House Oversight Committee, run by James Comer, subpoenaed bank records for in the Hunter Biden investigation. And what they found was that Hunter Biden received 250,000 wire transfer from a Chinese controlled finance company, and the address of the recipient for this wire transfer was Joe Biden's Delaware home.
That's not suspicious, is it?
Yeah, it kind of blows the theory that Joe Biden wasn't involved and he didn't know what his son was doing. It came to his home. And as far as I know, at the time, Hunter wasn't actually living there.
Gee, and could it also blow up the whole thing about maybe Hunter's not the smartest person in the world?
Yeah,
Just a thought.
well,
No, just a thought.
I think that's pretty much gone out the window. Yeah.
Lunch Pail Joe said he was. Yeah, I think that. Where do you think this is going? That's the major thing. It's getting worse and worse, and I think Democrats behind closed doors are shitting in their pants. Excuse my language.
Oh, they are. They are. They want Biden gone.
Done.
They want him to say, "I am not running for re-election." The only thing that's keeping them from pushing him out the door is the fact that Kamala Harris is such a abject moron. But
Abject moron. Yes.
you are seeing more and more evidence of this corruption. In fact, there are now found ties between Hunter Biden and Bob Menendez, who was just indicted for corruption.
Another boy genius. He beats a rap, and his excuse. I haven't smoked pot in many years, but you'd have to bone up like there's no tomorrow to get over that. Yes, I'm a Cuban, although he was born in America, and better than that, his parents immigrated here in 1954
All
before
right.
Castro ever even uh, smoke another joint, Bob.
Yeah, his family never went through communism in Cuba. That whole thing was a lie. Now, I'll cut him a little bit of slack. I have in the past had cash in the house that I kept as an emergency fund. I've never
Fine.
managed to get it to the point where I had gold bars though. That's the amazing part of all of
And do
this.
you know what I love about it also? If you get, let's say you went to the bank and business has been really good, Dr. Lotkin, and he decided for some reason you wanted to store some gold bars in your jacket just for, I don't know, you're bored. I don't, well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw any stones at you. You got to do what's fun for you. Um, wouldn't you know what the value of that gold? Would you really have to Google what that gold bar is worth? There you go. Yes. I don't think you have to be Perry Mason to blow this case open, do you?
No, if you own gold bars legitimately, then you get a statement at least once a
Really?
quarter that tells you what the value is from the company that you bought it from, from the broker on your brokerage account. The only
Yep.
reason you would not have this brokerage account or have somebody, doing this is that you got the gold bars illegally.
Yes, that may be a problem. I think also Bob's problems doesn't end at his doorstep. A lot of interplay and connections with prominent Democrats.
Yes, Governor Newsom announced he would be giving back the donations that he got from Bob Menendez.
Yep.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't understand why anybody is so surprised about this. One, it's not the first time he's been indicted. Two, I mean, the guy's basically working with Tony Soprano. I mean, come on, he's the senator from New Jersey, getting payments from suspect business people is the phrase that I heard used. I mean, I love that. He's getting payments from Tony Soprano.
Yeah, it's hysterical and really good comedy since late night is shot. Look at his Bob Menendez's acceptance speech. It's hysterical. I will work tirelessly for the people of New Jersey. Oh, yes, as I put gold bars in my official Senate jacket. Yeah, I think he's done. I think the Democrats want him out sooner rather than later. They don't want him running, do they?
No, they don't. So far, over a dozen Democratic senators have come out and called for him to retire, basically to step down from his seat. And even those that gave him the benefit of the doubt, like his fellow New Jersey Senator Booker, who said he needs to step down. He's not saying that he did anything wrong, but while he's dealing with this court case, he cannot adequately be serving the people of New Jersey.
Like he did
So
that at any time in his
right.
career?
So
There you go.
even those that won't say they think he's guilty don't want him serving anymore.
That is correct. Not a good week for Lunch Pail Joe or Gold Bullion Bob Menendez. Um, Speaking of our the political atmosphere and environment, and the increasingly pathetic leader of the free world, at least at this particular point in time, he was at a Hispanic Congressional Congress or
Yeah,
meeting, and he was
yes,
go. Yes, he was
it was
expounding. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it was the Congressional Hispanic Caucus that he was addressing.
There you go. And he was alluding to the fact and expounding on the fact and how blacks have contributed so much to America's success, which is true, but that's kind of the wrong audience.
Yeah, well,
Really?
apparently he thought he was addressing the Congressional Black Caucus and
That's
not
what
the
I'm saying. Yes.
yes, and not the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. He has reached the point where he doesn't even know where he is, and it was leaked a few days ago that there is a movement within the White House itself, and this is part of his reelection. His reelection. Are they talking about getting him to take action on the border? No. Are they talking about getting him to take action on the economy? No. Their big focus, they're trying to get him not to fall down.
Literally, you're correct. It's
Li-
called Operation Don't Fall.
yeah, it's
Amazing. Doesn't it kind of Kennedy-esque, like, we'll go to the moon by the end of the decade? I mean, that's really that's aiming high. The
yeah,
bar's pretty enormous. Don't fall.
and amazingly, part of this operation was that he's no longer using the long staircase to get onto Air Force One. He's using the short staircase. This started yesterday, and on the way down the short staircase, he tripped.
Yes, he almost had another boo boo. He's also wearing sneakers. Maybe they can get rid of Joe Montana, and he was endorsing Skechers, and maybe have Lunch Pail Joe do it as well. Even though people don't really like him, it'd be a horrible move. But yes, and that might account for the fact that Trump is almost has 20% of the black vote, while Lunch Pail Joe is down double digits, approaching basically 20 as well. So Trump's got 20, Biden's down 20. And he needs the black vote. And by the way, he's also way down in two things called enthusiasm and the youth vote, which got him over the top in 2020.
Yeah, the youth vote got him into office. The black vote saved him in the primary, which is why the DNC made such a big deal about making South Carolina the first primary, except Iowa and New Hampshire basically told the DNC they could go to hell. So yeah, the constituencies that got him into office are now abandoning him. And you're
Poor
seeing
Joe.
liberal media is saying he should not run. Democrats, they don't come out and say, he's got to go, but they always hedge what they're saying, both about him and Kamala Harris. I mean, my favorite answer so far. Reporters have asked Nancy Pelosi and a couple of other Democrats if they thought Kamala Harris was a good running mate for Joe Biden,
I
and
love that one.
their answer is, well, he thinks so.
That's a
Well,
ringing endorsement.
yes,
That's
isn't
ringing.
it?
Yes, it definitely is, without any question. I really think, and I love this by Dick Morris. I like his comment. He said that Stephanopoulos from what is ABC Good Morning or ABC This Week, he believes he wants Biden gone as well, or he never would have released that poll.
That could very well be. I mean, again,
He knows how he operates. He's really at the helm of ABC News, the political arm at least, and he would not have actually brought it out on his show if there was not an agenda, as well as Bezos, because Genius Joe is now picking a fight and has picked a fight with Bezos in that creepy low voice that we're coming after Amazon. Mm-hmm.
well,
Not
they
really
did.
a good move, Joe.
Well, they did go after Amazon. The FTC and 17 attorney generals announced an antitrust case against them this week. It was filed in Washington, D.C. District Court. They claim that Amazon has an unfair monopoly over online retail, and they're going after them.
And who owns the Washington Post?
Yeah, Jeff Bezos owns both of
Oh,
these
well,
companies.
surprise, surprise. There you go. And it's really interesting as well when you look at what's going on with the Trump indictments. Um, let's see here. Our friend there, Dick Morris, and another editorial thought it was thinks it is the worst blunder he's seen in American political history. I first I thought no, I thought it was game over. It really seems to be, and it also even with these indictments, still over 55% of those polled, and this is about a week ago, believe that Biden and his son are involved in some type of shady, unethical, and illegal operations or initiatives, undertakings.
Yeah, if Donald Trump were going to be running against a standout above board candidate on the Democratic ticket, these indictments might have crippled him. But because so many people already believe that Biden is a criminal, they're like, well, if you're going to run a criminal and you're telling us, not to vote for the other criminal, it's like, why even bother? Every time a new indictment or a new legal trouble is announced, Donald Trump's donations go up. His poll numbers go up. It is absolutely amazing because the American people are looking at this and going, no, this is ridiculous. You've been going after this guy since he announced he was going to run for president, not even, when he was in office. Remember, we had squad members running on the platform that they were going to impeach Donald Trump. And this is before he had ever done anything even resembling what they brought the impeachment charges
But I thought
for.
they were the party of democracy, and Trump's the one who threatens them. What am I missing here, Dr. Lopkin?
Trump is a threat to their power, plain and
There you
simple.
go.
The
Yes.
Democrats haven't represented democracy in a long, long time.
How was 1955 sound?
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
actually no, I wouldn't go back that far because you know
60s,
what,
60s.
Jimmy. No, 70s. Because Jimmy Carter believed in democracy. Jimmy Carter was a lousy president, but he believed in America. He believed in democracy, and it was after that that the Democratic Party fell apart.
I actually 100%, not that I usually don't, agree with you. In fact, I'm more pro. He was not a great president. Hello, pro. I think he had America's interests at heart. I think he was patriotic. He was intelligent. He was honorable. He was an honest person, and yeah, he was not a great president. There's no question. But sometimes also circumstances can f you up, and assholes can as well, like Ted Kennedy, that did everything he could to throw. It was actually really interesting. It wasn't the Republicans that really tried to screw Carter. It was his own party in large measure Ted Kennedy, who basically put a monkey wrench in universal health care and other things that he was working on. Yes, not a great president, but I was, a young kid at that time. But when I went to bed nighty night, I didn't, shit my pants worried about if we are going to get in a nuclear war or if the economy was going to shit the bed. So yeah, I think it's a huge difference, and I believe Jimmy Carter is so thankful and will be eternally thankful as he rests in peace when he rests in peace for Lunch Pail Joe. Agreed? He's
Oh yeah.
completely off. He's completely off the docket as the worst president ever. Not even
Oh
close,
yeah.
or at
No.
least in modern day
And
history.
and I'm so glad that Carter lived long enough to see it. You know.
He must have had. He was obviously very sick, but he must have had an amazing party when he realized Uncle Joe has taken his place. We talked about the corruption of Biden. It's well known, and you'd have to just be under a rock not to recognize that. But how about the latest indictment, civil charges against Donald Trump, supposedly misrepresenting his um, his real estate? I saw a little piece on that. It didn't look so unscrupulous to me because some of the things he talked about in terms of the value seemed kind of in line with other New York real estate. So I don't know. I'm not a real estate expert. I didn't think, and I don't think it's that uncommon of a practice to represent one thing for the IRS and another in other books. So what do you think? Do you think this is going anywhere?
Yeah, I'm honestly, I don't understand quite what happened. The judge stated that Trump had inflated it was not just Trump, it was two of his sons, two other business partners inflated the value of their real estate. Now, the judge made this determination, but the trial hasn't started yet. The trial starts shortly. So I think this was just his opinion in a motion that allowed the case to go forward.
It's got no legs.
That so I don't know if it even matters. Of course, Trump's lawyers have already said they're appealing the decision. But I mean, quite frankly, if you're evaluating real estate, I don't know anybody that evaluates their own real estate value. Everybody goes to,
An
if you're,
appraiser.
yeah, you go to an appraiser, the bank gives you an evaluation, the tax assessor gives it a valuation. I don't know anybody that does it themselves. So I'm really not clear on what has happened here.
I would agree. I'm not so sure. It's just I'm not. I don't know. And I also think it's white noise. Boy who cried wolf. I mean, what are you going to get to 1,000 indictments? I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous. But we'll see how
Oh
it
well,
all plays.
and
Go ahead.
this one doesn't even involve any jail time or any.
No, it's
It's a two,
civil.
yeah, it's a $250,000 fine that they're going after.
Well, if you looked at CNN, you would think he committed murder. But gee, surprise, surprise, once again, correct?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And again, this is another one. It's obviously politically motivated. It's coming from the district court in New York, which is a political seat. You this is the seat that launched Giuliani into the mayorship of New York. Other prosecutors from here have gone on to other political positions. This is a launching pad for a political career. That's the only reason they're doing this.
I would agree, but they better watch out because I'm not so sure that the environment is the same in terms of liberal New York than it was just 2 years ago, a la unbridled immigration. In fact, yeah, New York will still go in 24. It'll go Democrat, but I think by a razor's edge. How do you like that?
Well, we've already seen the Democrats trying to redraw the congressional districts because they're concerned that while it may go Democrat for whoever's running for president, they don't think they can hold all of the seats for Congress. So we
They
may
won't be able
see
to.
Republicans picking up more congressional seats within New York. And I mean, that's a big deal when deep blue states start shifting like that. It's a problem for them.
Without a doubt. And again, on the political front, we see that Nikki Haley is now second in New Hampshire, and she's become the darling of the Republican anti Trump donor class because they see her as the best alternative to Trump and the candidate with the most chance, I know remote, but most chance of unseating Trump. Your thoughts?
Well, it's more than just unseating Trump. Yes, that's the first step. But the more and more these candidates talk, it becomes very obvious that Nikki Haley is by far the most intelligent of the group, the one with the most experience, the one who can step in on day one and hit the ground running. And she is the one that is going to do I honestly believe, the best job for America. Forget the parties. They're looking at this as this could actually turn around Republican losses.
There is no question, Dr. Lopkin, that if Nikki Haley ran against Uncle Joe, I'm very suspicious if he's ever going to make it to the. But if he made it to the finish line, okay, it would be a landslide, a Reagan-esque landslide. How does that? That's
I
my
I would
humble opinion.
I would
Reagan-esque.
hope I would hope so, but based on recent polls, Joe Biden can't actually beat anybody who is currently running for presidential office. So, I mean, and that's another reason why the Democrats don't want him to run again, because all of the polls are saying that the Republican candidate will beat him.
No question. But I think she beats him just man
Once
against boy, so to speak, destroys him. She's got very little, if any, baggage. She's a woman. She's bright. She's articulate. Her ideas are mainstream. And in a debate, first of all, they'll never, they are, here's a prediction, they are never going to allow Uncle Joe to debate. Okay. That's never going to happen.
I, you know,
He's incapable. He can't
I
even read
I
a teleprompter. Are you kidding me?
I know they don't want him to debate, but I'm not sure he can get out of it. I mean, unless he claims he's got COVID and he has to stay in his basement again. Short
We
of
will
that,
see how it unfolds.
he's
But
going to have to face somebody.
if he does debate, I'm taking the next day off because I am getting many glasses of wine, a bowl of popcorn. It will be better than it will be better than Rodney Dangerfield's stand up, the greatest comedy show of all time, because he has deteriorated exponentially since 2020, and he was bad then. This will be it will be elder abuse, unbelievable. But I will be there, and I will be in my reclining chair, and I will be enjoying every minute of that. It'll be a
That's
must
it's
see TV, as they say.
it's the new Biden drinking game. Every time Joe Biden makes a gaffe, you take a drink. The problem is
Jesus,
that would cause alcoholism.
alcoholism and basically a flood in emergency rooms with alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Um, so yes, so we'll see how that plays out. The writers' strike is over, and that will give a reprieve to the late night comments, what they call Force of Five, which revealed them. Not that I didn't know this already, or we didn't know this already, of talentless, humorless losers. Without writers, yikes! Please, God help me. So at least they'll have someone to their rescue. But I think the damage is done at late night. I think it's game over.
Well, the damage may have been done, but it's not finished yet. Because even though the late night shows are planning to come back now that the writer's strike is over. However, the actors' strike is not over, and part of the strike says actors cannot promote any upcoming movie or television show.
So why
So
would
I
they be
don't
on a show?
right. So they're going to have a hard time getting guests. I don't know why they're even bothering to come back.
I don't know, but you know something? I haven't watched late night. In fact, Johnny, who hasn't done anything for obviously he's deceased. He's much more relevant, funny, and entertaining than these absolute Colbert's number one, by the way, as number one loser. These guys are about as funny as a heart attack.
Yeah, no, there. I mean, it shows America has tuned out of late night
Go on.
television. And I mean, that's proven by the fact that they're all being beaten by basic cable. But yeah, I still watch Johnny Carson on a regular basis. And you know what? What's really funny is watching Johnny Carson from all those years ago making fun of Joe Biden, of all people, that, nothing
He was
has
never
changed with
serious.
Joe Biden.
And in fact, it's really interesting. If it wasn't for the South Carolina name escapes me at this point, Congressperson that essentially set him up. If you look at the Democratic primary, Biden lost New Hampshire, Iowa. He was getting like fifth place. He was his
Yep.
loser position, as he always is. Clyburn basically installed him in South Carolina, and miraculously, with one victory, everyone just went aside. Surprise! Gee, golly gee, how did that happen? One victory, lost two in a row, got one victory, and everyone stepped aside. I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, it was amazing. And again, we know the DNC rigs their primaries. They did it for Hillary. Just ask Bernie Sanders. They did it for Obama. Just ask Hillary. So this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. And they're doing it
Well,
for Biden now against RFK. And he is more than happy to talk about that fact.
yes, he is. Well, we'll conclude with speaking of Democrats, a country that increasingly liberal Democrats despise. And I think you talked about this maybe a couple of years ago, because essentially, let's face it, the Democratic Party is a party of elitists and down and outers. And essentially, they hate winners. They like dependency. So that's one of the reasons, not the only reason. They despise Israel, and it's time for Jewish Democrats to wake up and smell the coffee. But Israel, it's called the Barak tank, no relation to Barack Obama, is the first artificial intelligent tank that is autonomous and deadly. A small little country can basically produce that. I wonder how.
Well, let's remember that Israel has an amazing tech industry. Most
Yes,
people don't realize that. So that's how they were able to develop something like this. Quite frankly, personally, it terrifies me. I mean, this is basically they've just created Skynet.
yeah,
This
it's
is
pretty much science fiction right now. Yes.
it's like I honestly do not believe that any weapon should be fully autonomous. There should be a person, at the very least, with a red button to, self destruct the thing or stop it in its tracks.
Wait a second. Isn't Camilla the AI czar though? Can't she
I,
have some influence?
I've,
Just
I've,
kidding, obviously.
I've lost track of what she's the czar of. She was the border czar, and in fact, we didn't really talk about this, but Biden announced the very first gun violence prevention office in the White House and put Kamala Harris in charge of this. So I have never been more secure in gun ownership in my life. Putting
Oh no,
Harris
it's a
in,
yes. No
uh,
question. She is called the mirror image of effectiveness. How do you
yes,
like that one?
I like that.
Well, Dr. Lopkin, that concludes another edition of Carnivore Bites. Our listeners can give their input if they like, correct?
They
And watch
can.
it in almost every platform.
They can. You can reach out to us at the Carnivore Radio Facebook page and at xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Carnivore Radio website, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I thank you, Dr. Lopkin.
We'll see you next time.